You know that moment when you realize your life took a turn you never saw coming? When everything you thought you knew about success, career, and the American dream just crumbles? Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. And if you stick around for the next 12 minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly why working after 40 is like being thrown into a gladiator arena where everyone else got a head start, better weapons, and the crowd is already rooting against you. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that 3 years ago, I was sitting in a corner office on the 23rd floor, thinking I had it all figured out. I was 37, making six figures, had a decent 401k, and honestly believed that the hardest part of my career was behind me. Man, was I wrong. Dead wrong. See, here's the thing nobody tells you about modern corporate America. It's not just ageism anymore. It's something way more sinister. It's technological warfare. And if you're over 40, you're basically showing up to a drone fight with a slingshot. It started subtle, little comments here and there. Hey, Jim, maybe we should get one of the younger guys to handle the social media campaign. Or my personal favorite, this project needs someone who really gets the digital native mindset. Digital native? Like I didn't live through the entire internet revolution? Like I wasn't there when we went from dial-up to broadband, from Friendster to Facebook, from flip phones to smartphones. But the real wake-up call came on a Tuesday. I remember it perfectly because Tuesdays were always my favorite. Middle of the week, good momentum, usually productive meetings. I walked into the office at 8 a.m. sharp, just like I had for the past 14 years. And there's this kid, and I mean kid, probably fresh out of college, sitting at my desk. Not near my desk, at my desk. "Oh, hey," he says, all casual, like he's doing me a favor. "I'm Tyler. I'll be transitioning into your role while you focus on," he actually looked around for help. "Strategic consulting?" Strategic consulting. Corporate speak for, we're keeping you around until we figure out how to fire you without a lawsuit. That's when it hit me. I wasn't being promoted. I wasn't being transferred. I was being replaced by someone who probably made half my salary and knew how to use TikTok for marketing. The writing wasn't just on the wall, it was in neon lights, flashing, with a marching band playing behind it. You want to know what the next 6 months felt like? Imagine being a gladiator who spent decades learning how to fight with a sword and shield only to be thrown into an arena where everyone else has machine guns. Every meeting became a performance where I had to prove I wasn't obsolete. Every presentation was a desperate attempt to show I could think outside the box and leverage synergistic solutions. The worst part wasn't even the job itself. It was watching younger colleagues, people I'd trained, people I'd mentored, suddenly treating me like their grandfather who doesn't understand how Netflix works. In meetings, they'd talk past me, around me, sometimes literally over me. I became invisible in plain sight. And the technology, Jesus, the technology. Every week there was some new platform, some new software, some new revolutionary way of doing things that made perfect sense to everyone under 35 and felt like rocket science to everyone over 40. Slack, Discord, Notion, Asana, Monday.com. It was like learning a new language every month, except the dictionary kept changing and nobody had time to teach you the grammar. But here's where it gets really dark. After 8 months of strategic consulting, which mostly involved organizing old files and attending meetings where my opinion was politely ignored, they called me in for the conversation. You know the one. HR lady with the fake sympathetic smile, my boss looking everywhere except at my face, and a severance package that was technically generous but felt like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. "We're restructuring," they said, "moving in a different direction. It's not about performance, it's about organizational needs." All the corporate bullshit wrapped up in a nice little bow. 23 years with the company. 23 years of 60-hour weeks, missed family dinners, skipped vacations, climbing that ladder rung by rung. And it all ended with a cardboard box and a security guard escorting me to the parking garage. Now here's where most people think the story ends, right? Middle-aged guy gets fired, finds another job, maybe takes a pay cut, but bounces back. That's not how this works anymore. Not when you're 40 plus in 2024. I spent the next 4 months applying for jobs. Not just similar positions. I cast a wide net, senior roles, mid-level positions. Hell, I even applied for jobs I was overqualified for just to get back in the game. You know how many interviews I got? 7. 7 interviews out of over 200 applications. And those interviews? Man, they were brutal. Not because the questions were hard, but because I could see it in their eyes. That moment when they realized I was older than they expected. When they calculated how long until I'd retire. When they wondered if I could keep up with the pace of their dynamic, fast-moving environment. 3 of those interviews, I never even made it past the first round. The others, we decided to go with someone who's a better cultural fit. Cultural fit. That's the new age discrimination, folks. Can't say you're too old, but they sure can say you don't fit their culture of ping-pong tables and kombucha on tap. The 5th month is when the panic really set in. Savings starting to dwindle, mortgage payments looming, my wife trying to be supportive, but I could see the stress in her eyes every time another rejection email hit my inbox. That's when I started expanding my search. Remote work, contract positions, consulting gigs, anything to stop the bleeding. You know what I discovered? The gig economy is even worse for people over 40. These platforms, these apps, these revolutionary ways of working, they're all designed by 25-year-olds for 25-year-olds. It's all about speed, adaptability, being available 24/7. It's about competing not just on skills, but on energy levels, on willingness to work weekends, on how quickly you can pivot from one project to another. I tried freelance writing, competed against college kids who could charge $10 an article because they lived with their parents and considered ramen a food group. I tried consulting, went up against former executives who had golden parachutes and could afford to lowball their rates while they played golf and called it networking. The breaking point came 7 months after I got fired. I was sitting in a Starbucks, laptop open, applying for yet another position that would pay me 30% less than what I made 5 years ago, when this kid, couldn't have been older than 28, sits down next to me and starts talking loudly into his earpods about the senior position he just landed. Senior position at 28. I wanted to laugh, but honestly, I was too tired to find it funny anymore.
That night, I did something I never thought I'd do. I looked up jobs in retail. Not management positions, not corporate retail, actual floor work. Because at some point, pride becomes a luxury you can't afford. At some point, you realize that being a 42-year-old Best Buy employee might be better than being a 42-year-old unemployed former executive. But here's the plot twist nobody sees coming. The retail jobs? The entry-level positions? The anyone-can-do-this work? They don't want you either. Too overqualified, they said. Flight risk. Why would we hire someone with your background for this position? Like having experience was suddenly a liability. So there I was, too old for the corporate world, too qualified for entry-level work, too broke to be picky, and too proud to ask my kids for money. It's like being caught in some kind of employment purgatory, where every door you approach has a sign that says, "Not for you." Month 8 was when I really started to understand what systemic ageism looks like in practice. It's not just about individual hiring managers making biased decisions. It's about entire systems, entire industries, entire ways of doing business that are fundamentally structured to exclude people over 40. The job boards that use AI to filter resumes, programmed to look for culture fit keywords that correlate with youth. The networking events that happen at trendy bars at 9 p.m. on weeknights, assuming everyone can stay out late and drink craft beer. The interview processes that focus on energy and fresh perspectives, code words for young. Even the job descriptions themselves, digital native required, must thrive in a fast-paced, high-energy environment, looking for someone to grow with the company. Every single one is a subtle way of saying old people need not apply without actually saying it. And the training requirements, God, the training requirements. Every position wanted expertise in software that hadn't existed when I was learning my trade, but also assumed you'd somehow magically absorb this knowledge through cultural osmosis.
It's like they wanted someone with 20 years of experience in technology that's been around for 3 years. The worst part was watching my confidence erode day by day. I started second-guessing every decision I'd made in my career. Maybe I should have stayed more current with technology. Maybe I should have networked better. Maybe I should have seen this coming and pivoted earlier. The self-doubt becomes this constant background noise that makes everything harder. But you know what really broke me? It wasn't the rejections or the financial stress, or even the bruised ego. It was the day my 19-year-old daughter asked me about career advice. She's studying marketing, bright as hell, full of ambition. And as I'm sitting there, unemployed for almost 9 months, trying to give her guidance about professional success, I realized I had no idea what I was talking about anymore. The world had changed so fundamentally, so quickly, that all my hard-earned wisdom felt like ancient history. Everything I thought I knew about building a career, about professional growth, about long-term planning, it was all based on a reality that no longer existed. That's when I finally understood the real reason why it sucks to work after 40. It's not just about age discrimination or technological change or even economic instability. It's about becoming a stranger in your own professional life. It's about watching everything you worked for, everything you built your identity around, become irrelevant almost overnight. You spend your 20s and 30s climbing a ladder, only to discover in your 40s that the building moved and your ladder is now leaning against empty air. And everyone just expects you to figure it out, to adapt, to reinvent yourself, like it's that simple. Like 3 decades of professional experience is just dead weight you should be grateful to shed. The irony is crushing. Right when you have the most to offer, experience, wisdom, perspective, the ability to see patterns and avoid mistakes, that's exactly when the market decides you're obsolete. Right when you need stability the most, mortgage, kids' college, aging parents, that's when everything becomes uncertain. So here I am, 43 years old, finally employed again after 11 months of searching. And before you ask, no, it's not a happy ending. I'm making 40% less than I was before, working for a company that makes it very clear I'm lucky to be there, in a position that could disappear tomorrow if some algorithm decides I'm not generating enough value. But I'm telling you this story not for sympathy, and definitely not for pity. I'm telling you this because somebody needs to say it out loud. The American workplace is broken for anyone over 40, and we're just pretending it's normal. We've created a system that treats human experience like expired milk, where wisdom is seen as outdated thinking, where stability is viewed as lack of ambition. We've built an economy that demands constant reinvention while offering no support for that reinvention, that prizes youth over competence, potential over proven results. And if you're under 40 watching this, thinking this won't happen to you, that you'll be different, that you'll stay current, that you'll be prepared, I thought the same thing. We all did. The technology that makes you invaluable today will make you obsolete tomorrow. The skills that define your career right now will be automated or outsourced or simply irrelevant in ways you can't even imagine yet. The question isn't whether this will happen to you. The question is what we're going to do about it. Are we going to keep pretending that ageism doesn't exist, that meritocracy is real, that hard work and loyalty are enough? Or are we finally going to admit that we've built a professional world that chews people up and spits them out right when they need stability the most? Because here's what I know now. After living through this nightmare, sharing these stories, talking about these experiences, refusing to stay quiet about what's really happening, that's the first step to changing it. Every person that watches this and recognizes their own story, every comment that says, "Me too," every like that shows this resonated with someone, that's how we start building something different. So if this story hit you, if it made you think, if it scared you or inspired you or just made you feel less alone, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Because the only way we change this system is by refusing to suffer in silence. The only way we build something better is by first admitting how broken things really are. Thanks for listening to the hardest story I've ever had to tell. And remember, you're not alone in this. None of us are.